Hi, my name is Erica Toepke, and my partner's name is Priya Wolf, and we will be doing our health presentation on vaping.
Okay, so the background info on vapes. Vapes contain nicotine, which is a complex stimulant, and this means that it acts both as a stimulant and a depressant, which is kind of unique. And so, vapes, when you breathe in the vapor, it's not water vapor, it's actually aerosol. And aerosol is composed of propylene glycol, which is a vegetable glycerin based liquid. It kind of has the consistency of soap. And it's also this substance and nicotine and flavoring and other chemicals and even metals. But there is no tobacco. And so vape companies, they advertise it as being healthier because there is no tobacco, and no tobacco means that it's smoke free. And being smoke free, it provides users with better oral hygiene, skin health, circulation, lung capacity, and an improved sense of smell and taste when being compared to traditional cigarettes. And essentially, what vaping is a simulation of tobacco smoking. Users inhale aerosol, which is the vapor, and release it, and they get the nicotine from that. Vapes are battery powered, so the liquid in the vape, it's heated up via battery, and then it turns into a gas or vapor, which users vape.
So, the short term effects of vaping and e cigarettes. So, even though it's relatively new, it's already been discovered to have numerous short term effects and side effects. So, when a person vapes, it can have a huge negative impact on their lungs and respiratory system, like with any other tobacco or nicotine product. But e cigarettes can be super misleading because they contain sometimes higher concentration levels and higher amounts of nicotine, and the consumer wouldn't even realize it. So, for example, just taking a few puffs of a vape or an e cigarette can have the same nicotine concentration as an entire pack of cigarettes, which is crazy. Vaping and e-cigarettes can also lead people to look for maybe other sources of tobacco or nicotine, or even like much stronger drugs, which is really scary. So it's kind of a gateway drug to other products and drugs. Another problem with vaping is nicotine overdoses. They used to be pretty rare in the past, but in today's age, they're super common with vaping and e cigarettes. So, nicotine overdoses can be caused mainly by having a super high concentration of nicotine, or like ingesting more than a somewhat normal amount. I mean, I would say nothing is really a normal amount, but a very high amount of nicotine. And these overdoses are more prevalent in younger adults and teens because their bodies can't handle the high levels of nicotine, and that means that for a young adult or teen, a couple of e cigarettes can be toxic and poisonous. So, the long term effects of vaping. As of right now, the research for the long term effects of vaping is still in progress. These effects, though, are the most proven so far, but it'll probably take years of research to prove them indefinitely. Most, if not all, of these long term effects are also associated with the use of tobacco products such as cigarettes. So, vaping and nicotine are highly addictive substances and used by many in the United States, particularly young adults and teens. So, the first of these long term effects are chronic lung diseases such as asthma, chronic bronchitis, and COPD. Vaping doesn't just affect the lungs, though, too. It can also cause a bunch of types of cancer that occur all over the body. These types of cancer can include lung cancer, stomach cancer, bladder cancer, and esophageal cancer. Vaping and e cigarettes can have a huge impact on the wellness wheel as well and cause it to become unbalanced. It mainly affects two areas, the first being sleep, causing the users of the product to feel exhausted all of the time despite the amounts of sleep they may or may not have gotten. It also affects physical health because of all the negative medical side effects and diseases associated with it, such as cancer, lung infections, and respiratory diseases. Vaping can also have a huge impact on the brain in areas like memory, learning, mood, and overall development. These effects are most prominent in younger adults and teens as their brains haven't had the time to fully develop yet.
Statistic is that medical particles of nickel, tin, and aluminum are commonly found in vapes. So this is really not good for people that vape because having metal in your lungs isn't good unless it's aiding bodily functions. Our second statistic is that teen vape users are more than 3 times as likely to start smoking, so vaping is a gateway drug. Our third statistic is that defective, poorly manufactured, and improperly modified vapes have also been known to explode and cause injury. Images of this include this guy. It's the same dude, but he has several broken teeth, his mouth is bleeding, and he actually fractured his jaw. Statistic number 4 is that the CDC and FDA have been investigating cases of EVALI, which is e-cigarette or vaping product use-associated lung injury. So far, 39 related deaths have been confirmed. Our fifth statistic is that there are currently no regulations on flavored vapes.
So, the current news story that we chose was a really tragic story of a 15-year-old teenager from Texas who unfortunately passed away from complications related to vaping. So, this article is from January of this year, 2020, and at the time it was the youngest death of a person from vaping in the US, which is insane to think about. So, um, the teenager unfortunately passed away, and although the specific way the vape caused the teen to pass away has not yet been released, one thing is for sure. Vaping is a deadly and life-threatening source of tobacco. As vaping and e-cigarettes are becoming more popular, the ugly truth is finally coming out. Even short-term use of a vape can have devastating consequences, as proved by this unfortunate story where the user had only been vaping for about maybe a month or less. Now, there isn't one conclusive answer as to why so many people are dying from vaping, but it may be caused by an oil that's commonly found in e-cigarettes and vapes, and it's called vitamin E acetate, and it's used in e-cigarettes to make the THC last longer. So it's theorized, it's because it's not known exactly how it affects the lungs, but it's been theorized that it disrupts a substance in the lungs that's important for breathing and lung health. So, other interesting stuff. I was doing research and I found it really interesting that Juul and other e cigarette companies have been sued and are being sued multiple times for targeting teens with advertisements and flavoring products with flavors like candy and fruit to make sure that young adults and teens are part of the market and want to buy their products. So they've been receiving series of lawsuits by young addicted users, and their arguments being that Juul and other e-cigarette companies are using their marketing strategy, which is aimed at youth. This is especially present in a recent lawsuit that I found brought by Massachusetts against Juul for buying ads promoting e-cigarettes that appeared on Cartoon Network and other sites to attract young buyers. This is just one of many recent lawsuits that aim to crack down on Juul and e-cigarette manufacturers for promoting their products to young adults and teens. Another example of this is e-cigarette companies producing products that are flavored like fruit or candy to attract young buyers.
And so right here we have an eBali informational photo. So I'll give you a second to read that. And then for our anti-vaping PSA, it's longer than 3 minutes, but you should look at 20 seconds to 2 minute 20 seconds. And it's all about the myths surrounding vaping and it corrects them. And what's really cool about it is that it's actually sponsored by Mayo Clinic here in Minnesota. So the video is homegrown.
You want a hit, bro?
Nah, man, I'm good.
Dude, it's not like cigarettes. Vaping isn't bad for you. That's definitely not true.
What are you even worried about? It's just water. Honestly, there's very little water involved. Want to know why you can see it? Because it's an aerosol, like hairspray. Some of these chemicals are found in different foods that we eat, so it can't be that bad for you. However, when heated to vaping temperatures, propylene glycol can become formaldehyde. which is a carcinogen used to preserve dead bodies.
It's okay though. This liquid is safe.
Actually, studies show that 92% of all flavoring chemicals are toxic to your lungs. So, the chances are that the liquid you're taking is not safe at all.
I know vaping's new. My friends all tell me there's no proof it will hurt me, right?
Actually, vaping has been proven by recent medical research to cause damage to our brain, hearts, lungs, and even our eyes.
This pod doesn't contain nicotine. Actually, a study done by the American Journal of Health showed that 99% of e-cigarettes sold in the United States contain nicotine, the same highly addictive substance found in regular cigarettes. Also, 100% of Juuls contain nicotine.
But if I'm going to choose between the two, vaping is better than smoking cigarettes, right? Actually, one cartridge of vaping liquid is the equivalent to 20 cigarettes. That's like 200 puffs.
I'll just vape for a few years. I won't get addicted. Unfortunately, if you vape, it's very likely you'll get addicted. Additionally, by vaping, you are 4 times more likely to start smoking cigarettes.
I don't know, man. I really don't want to get in trouble for this.
Dude, you're fine. You're not going to get in trouble for this. Besides, there's no way your parents can find out. Actually, in many states, if a juvenile gets a ticket for vaping, they'll be required to go in front of a judge with their parents.
I'm not going to get in a lot of trouble for this, right?
The pods confiscated can be tested. Depending on what you put in them, you can be arrested and charged with a felony. People around me can't be harmed by the vapor.
False. It's just like secondhand smoke, and that smoke can cause cancer, birth defects, or other reproductive harm to innocent bystanders.
Damage to our brain, hearts, lungs.
Used to preserve dead bodies.
They'll be required to go in front of a judge.
You can be arrested and charged with a felony.
Because it's an aerosol, like hairspray.
That's like 200 puffs. It's just like secondhand smoke.
You're 4 times more likely to start smoking cigarettes.
Highly addictive substance.
Toxic to your lungs.
I don't know, man. I think you're kind of stupid to think that, and I think you should educate yourself. You need to stop.
Just do it yourself. It isn't going to harm me.
Check.
Check.
In conclusion, vaping is by far the most dangerous and harmful drug. It is so very accessible, especially to young people. It's also a gateway drug. As mentioned before, teens that vape are more than 3 times as likely to begin to use tobacco and use much harder drugs. Also, the long-term effects are unknown. This brings up the issue of the worst effects not even being short-term, but laying in the future ahead.